The rise of Rigathi Gachagua was meteoric, rising from a first-term member of parliament to the position of a deputy president who is elected by the people and with the trappings of power as a deputy president. That is the principal assistant of the president. This is a member of the National Security Council, and therefore it would have been expected that the fall of Riggy from the office of the second in command, that is the deputy president, to a person who has been impeached. And when you are impeached in this country, you may not vie for any position. You can't be elected as a member of the county assembly today, unless, of course, the court expunges or quashes the impeachment by the National Assembly as confirmed by the Senate of Kenya. Politically speaking, Rigathi Gachagua is a nobody because he cannot contest for the position of a member of the county assembly. He can't be in a school committee, and this is not for 10 years, it's not for 20 years, but forever. That is how serious the provisions of Chapter 6 of the Constitution of Kenya are concerned. The trouble, of course, is that the fall from grace to grass by the deputy president, the second deputy president of the Republic of Kenya, is not without consequences, because what he's been doing, and I think he's succeeding in this, has been to poison the populace around Mount Kenya region. What he's been doing, because he's literally a sinking ship, has been to drag the president of the Republic of Kenya towards the ocean, where Rigathi Gachagua, the sinking ship, is. And it looks to me like both Gachagua and the president of the Republic of Kenya, politically speaking, would be sinking onto the same abyss, onto the same political ocean, unless the president of the Republic of Kenya takes an about turn and avoids what has been thrown his way. Politically, it's going to be very expensive for the president, because the moment he engages Rigathi Gachagua in what we've seen the president doing, that is political jabs, that is the brickbats that we've been seeing, and Riggy responses, part of them are going to be at the receiving end, because each one is splashing mud on the face of the other. As it is today, I think so much mud has been splashed on the face of the president of the Republic of Kenya, and the citadel of the office of the president, and the office of the highest office in the land, Statehouse, has been splashed with mud. And today, a lot of Kenyans are starting to lose credibility. It's becoming scary, and it looks like there is so much dubious transactions happening around the office of the president. Because you remember the other day, the second deputy president of the Republic of Kenya, told us that there was a time an aide of the President William Samoei Ruto, used to control the diary of the second president of the Republic of Kenya, and it would appear like he would be paid to clear you to see Rigathi Gachagua. What does that mean? It means there are some people who are probably collecting money to allow some people within the country and outside the country to access the highest offices in the land. That is the office of the president and the office of the deputy president. For the president to be able to cure his sinking ship, to rescue the political sinking ship, so much has to be done. One of the things that got to be done is what we saw in Mount Kenya last week. It is rumored, and there could be some element of truth. Get some money, good money for that matter, be able to round up all border operators in all the counties. You go to Embu, you go to Meru, Tharaka Nithi, Nyandarua, Nyeri, Kirinyaga, Kiambu. Pay them handsomely so that they come to your functions to come and give you some political security, and bring alongside some passengers who would also be paid. What does that mean? We're going to divert funds which would have been earmarked for development for purposes of trying to steady the political ship of President William Samoei Ruto. The more there is political instability in any region of this country, the more the money we are going to spend in trying to steady the ship, the political ship, instead of putting this money into the NHIF, which we are winding up, and pay hospitals in this country, which are owed billions of money by the defunct National Hospital Insurance Fund. It is going to be a very costly affair for this government. Kenyans are going to suffer the most. And I'm excited that we are discussing this. The President of the Republic of Kenya accesses so much information. He meets so many people. certainly he would talk to his former deputy president. In the same token, the former deputy president of the Republic of Kenya occupied the second highest office in the land. This is the principal assistant to the president. By dint of the constitution, he is also a member of the National Security Council. That is to say, these are people who not only listen and talk to so many people, but they also benefit from privileged information from the National Intelligence Service. When the President of the Republic says Rigathi Gachagua asked him for 10 billion shillings so that he could sort out one or two issues, this is not the kind of information that you dismiss without more. On the same vein, when the deputy president says we had a meeting with the president and he promised to give me 2 billion shillings so that I get out of office amicably, this is not the kind of information that you dismiss. There is credibility in what comes from the president. There is credibility on what comes from the former deputy president. What does that mean? This credibility attached to dubious information, information of cartelism, information of kleptocracy, information of plunder and looting of public resources as between the two top officers is what is going to erode credibility, not just in the two individuals, but in the highest officers in the land. And Kenyans may start imagining that when we elect people into some of these offices, all they do is to go and transact on their behalf, find ways to loot from public coffers, find ways to enrich themselves, try to take care of their commercial interests, their personal interests. And this is why we keep on saying that when we go into elections as Kenyans, we should look for strong character, we should look for integrity and credibility. This is where it boils down to. How do we elect our people and whom do we elect? Of course, for the president and the deputy president, as I have already indicated, nobody would escape unscathed in this. Both of them are going down in as far as credibility is concerned. Politically, both of them are going down. What should they do? I think it is high time, and I am sure they are listening, and the advisors are listening. It's high time they start together and bridge the gap. Whatever could have happened, they may probably need to close the gap, forgive each other, and find ways of sharing whatever spoils are available there. Because what is emerging is that we have highest officers in the land where deals are cut, where billions of money are exchanged instead of taking this money to the poor people, securing our borders in Todoyang, ensuring that our porous North Rift is secured, and we put up industries. We ensure that we do value addition. On the contrary, it would appear that we have wheeler dealers in the highest officers in the land, and the most they could do is to cut interest for themselves, make billions of money to line their pockets at the expense of poor Kenyans, at the expense of students in primary, secondary, and the university who are struggling through their education. Forget about those who are dying of hunger in the country. The truth of the matter, Mangicho, and I cry for my beloved country, is that the government of the day suffers from acute credibility deficit. A situation where very many Kenyans are doubtful of the integrity of many of the projects. As a board member of one of the big hospitals in this country, I will tell you that SHA looks promising, especially on matters of outpatient. It covers quite a number of ailments. It covers quite a number of conditions. The problem is the delay. The biggest problem now is that if you have to be paid, you have to make a phone call. It's a question of whom do you know, the highest officers in the land. And in the long run, when that happens, that is a breeding ground for corruption. This is a breeding ground for rent seeking. And that is why it's important to tell the President of the Republic of Kenya that his government suffers from acute credibility deficit, which he needs to bridge. And the only way to deal with this is to use information, intelligence reports, and fire people who are collecting rent for government services to be rendered, people who are bribed so that service providers are paid for. I mean, we need to have a country that is efficient, that is effective. So SHA would have been a good project. It would have been a good initiative because it is universal health coverage. But for you to be paid on outpatient, which is a better cover, you have to know somebody who has to be paid something small so that he facilitates the payment. I'll tell you, for example, last month, I know of a hospital which is owed quite some money by SHA, but it was only paid 700,000 shillings. Another hospital whose bishop came out and lashed at the government and even threatened to stop some of the services was paid 32 million shillings. What does that tell you? It tells you that the system that is in place is not efficient and effective. It is a question of who is better in terms of bargaining power, who knows what, and who is aggressive, who can go out to the media and attack the government. This is not what we need. And Mr. President, you need to come out very strongly, take advantage of the information within the National Intelligence Service. If people have to make money in government because of what was spent in the campaign, let that be bygone. Let us kick out those who are corrupt, the rent seekers, the people who have taken hostage service providers in this country. Get clean people who are competent, so that services and payments move seamlessly across the country. At 43 years, because I will be 43 years this month, I would imagine that to be a cabinet secretary, to sit in the highest decision-making organ of the country, organ of the executive, you needed somebody with gravitas, somebody with skills, somebody with experience, somebody with a razor-sharp mind. What am I trying to say? You would expect that if you have a cabinet secretary dealing with labor, this is somebody who would have interacted with labor laws. People would have interacted with labor practices, not just at the national, regional level, but internationally. But see what happens. You bring in place a person who supported you, that is fine, but who has little exposure on what we are talking about. You have a cabinet secretary who is managing a docket with the least exposure on the same. If you have to talk about roads, public works, generally you would require a person who has exposure to engineering, a person with some good experience on matters of roads, matters of buildings. That would be the expectation. But what we've seen has been the exact opposite. That is why I'm saying I do not think we've had the best of cabinet since the year 2022, if the expectation that I have were anything to go by. And what do we expect therefore? We get cabinet secretaries who are less informed. We have cabinet secretaries who are not in charge of their ministries as far as policy is concerned. And rumors that government that we have today is run almost exclusively from Statehouse. Even the government printer is stationed at Statehouse. Some appointments are sometimes made for board positions, for parastatal chairpersons in the name of cabinet secretaries who have no idea who are these people who've been appointed. So the government itself is probably not in the ministries. It's not in the cabinet meetings. It is in Statehouse. Probably the president is the cabinet, and the cabinet is the president. And it's fairly unfortunate, because we will not therefore be able to do what is envisaged in the Constitution, because a cabinet is too serious. It is too deep. This is the highest decision-making organ. It should be more qualified than any other organ. The people who populate there should be people who on their own would be able to run government if the president was not around, if the deputy president was not around. But I'm afraid what we have in place today may not be in a position to even know, let alone run. They may not be in a position to know what we are having. As to whether Duale or not is qualified to be cabinet secretary, does he have the gravitas? I think he does. Experience on matters of governance. He's been a member of parliament for some time. He's been Senate majority. He's been the majority leader in the National Assembly. I don't know how much experience he has on matters of medicine, on matters of public health. So therefore, on matters of skills to run the ministry, I humbly submit that he is not qualified to command the Ministry of Health. It is too sensitive a ministry. You would require some sophistry on medicine, on public health, and generally on matters to do with the right to life, which are around medicine and public health. And the president may have to reconsider his decision to appoint Duale. Yes, he has the charisma, he has the gravitas, but no skills on how to turn around the Ministry of Health. And we needed somebody who is a doctor, probably a nurse, maybe a public health officer, that is a person who would have some exposure and who would fit into the ministry without bullying anybody, without much ado. But the decision to appoint cabinet secretaries rests largely with the president and parliament. And here in the Kenya that we've had since 2013, the president is parliament and parliament is the president. So if a president wants Mangicho to be a cabinet secretary, that is done because the president is parliament and parliament is the president.